Hi folks, Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior, attorney, and legal coach coming at you today from Seattle, Washington. So in this video, I wanted to talk briefly about an issue that is really on the rise. It affects a huge percentage of small businesses, and it is increasingly happening and causing big risks for businesses, including online businesses. So I've helped several people recently with this issue, and depending on how it happens, depending on which payment processors are involved, it can be kind of tricky to sort out and get to the bottom of. So that's why we're going to talk a little bit about front-end protections and how you prevent this from happening in the first place. Or at least put as many protections in place as you can so that if it does happen, you have a better chance of it being resolved in your favor. So what am I talking about? There's an issue called friendly fraud, okay? And obviously there is nothing friendly about fraud, but this term evolves because there is a current subset of essentially online thieves that engage in a practice called friendly fraud, which is where they use their own credit cards to purchase something. And usually target small businesses, other businesses online. I guess big businesses can be targeted too, but it's a very expensive thing to have to endure, especially for a small business. And we're going to talk about the process, what that looks like today, as well as how you protect against it. So typically these people engage in friendly fraud by transacting a purchase or multiple purchases where later they claim, they request essentially what's called a chargeback. They don't go to the business directly and request any assistance with their purchase. They go directly to their credit card company or their bank and essentially just dispute the purchase. Often they are claiming that they didn't authorize the purchase in the first place. Even when they transacted it themselves, they probably received the benefit of the purchase, whether that was an in-person product delivery, whether it was an online digital delivery, right? So they already received the benefit of whatever it was that they ordered, and then later claim that they didn't authorize the purchase, somebody else used their card, etc., etc. One thing to understand is the likelihood of this type of fraud is 3 times greater on international orders. So that's something to keep in mind. It happens very frequently internationally. Second is that of the chargeback claims that are made each year, banks and credit card companies actually estimate that 86% of those are fraudulent and involve this term friendly fraud. So it's a very high rate of chargeback requests that get made, or people that later just decide they're going to take advantage of a situation, including their credit card company's policies or their bank's policies, and just request a chargeback. So how do you prevent this from happening, or how do you protect yourself so that in the event it does happen, you're more likely to essentially win the scenario or not have this money taken out of your pocket? Because what does this cost small business owners? Well, any business owner, but it's particularly painful for small businesses that don't have big budgets for this stuff. So basically for every $1 in chargeback requests made, it costs you about $3 and a little bit of change to deal with these types of fraudulent scenarios. And that's not just in the essentially the return of the product or the loss of the value of the product. It also has to do with the time spent dealing with it, employee time, disputing the fraud or disputing what's going on with the bank or with the credit card company, as well as some of the penalties that get assessed. Because what often happens is when the bank has to process this, they pass along a certain amount of penalty to the business. So that's you, it comes out of your pocket. So I'm just going to go through a quick list of things that we can do to protect ourselves as small businesses against this type of fraud. And again, we're talking about friendly fraud. So one is send confirmation emails, right? That is one additional step that you can do when a purchase is made to ensure that that person actually made the purchase, etc., etc. Require e-signatures, okay? So a second thing you can do is require e-signatures, where somebody has to actually sign electronically saying that they purchased or are making the order, right? And then you have their signature on file. This is an important one. Always require a CVV, right? So that's the custom verification value, and you should always require that on a credit card, so that somebody is on a credit card purchase online, so that somebody is, if they have the actual card, that's usually the only way that they can get that CVV. There is also a payer authentication service, which is called 3D Secure. That's another level of protection that you can add to an online order. Because keep in mind, with all of the chip readers, right, we have chips that are being built into all of our modern credit cards. You don't get that protection transacting business online, right? So e-commerce, you are not processing your cards in person for the most part, and so you don't get the advantage of actually having the person in front of you with the card using the chip reader, which is supposed to provide greater security. So all of these other steps become even more important. Use an address verification service. So whether it's in your checkout form, check with your payment processor, make sure that you have an address form built into your online checkout process, so that you are collecting an address as well as their payment information. And along with that, record IP addresses. It's very hard for somebody to wiggle out of claiming, well, when they claim that they didn't make a charge, when the IP address matches their physical address and you've collected both of those things, right? So it shows that somebody at that location with the credit card entered the physical address, entered all of the information, and then later is trying to claim that they didn't authorize the purchase. It's harder for them to get out of that. If you are delivering physical products in the mail, right, that somebody can order online, require signature at delivery. Don't use some of the standard delivery methods that just drop the item on the porch. Require that they sign for delivery. And then finally, this is an important item, but make contact with you and your business and your customer service team easy. So include your information in the confirmation receipt, whether that's sent via email or however that's sent. Maybe it's instantaneous on their screen. Maybe there's a page on your website that for anybody with questions about their orders can contact you directly. Because what happens is you get a certain amount of people that have a valid issue, and if it's too difficult to contact your company and deal with you directly, they may just instead request a chargeback. And that's not helpful for small businesses, because it doesn't give you a chance first to resolve the issue. So make contacting you, your team, your service people very easy. And then consult your processor, right? So we've talked about several things that your payment processor can help you with. Consult them and ask them which of these things they can help you provide, whether on your checkout page, as part of your checkout process, to make it as secure as possible, so that at the very least you're using address verification, you're collecting the CVV code, you are collecting IP addresses, right? And where possible, you're either collecting a digital signature or a physical signature if you're delivering products via the mail. And then on top of that, right, send email confirmations, make it very easy to contact your business. And then if you can use a service like 3D Secure or an address verification service, those are bonuses. So I hope this has helped. Friendly fraud is not very fun. It's very expensive for small businesses. I spoke with a woman just a week or two ago that was dealing with this, and essentially the perpetrator in her case had used her service weekly. So this was a service that is just delivered over the phone, like a consulting service, right? Had used her services weekly for like 12 to 15 weeks. And so, you know, this was an amount that was in about the $1,500 range. At the end of the year, made a request to her credit card company requesting chargebacks for all 12 or 15 sessions, and successfully got them. So it's when you take these steps that we've just discussed, you're much more likely to be able to present this evidence, show that you properly collected it, and be able to defeat some of those chargeback requests, and showing that the end user is actually committing friendly fraud. So anyways, I hope this helps. I hope it doesn't happen to you, but in the meanwhile, I hope you get up to speed on these steps. Contact your payment processor, find out what you can do to protect against this, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.